All right. Hello, SAP community. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. And thanks for joining our SAP Community Call today. I'm Lena. I'm part of the SAP Community and Influencers team and your kind of technical host for the session today with the SAP HANA team. Super excited for this topic. I love the title that you guys chose. So going hybrid on the fly, how to dynamically extend on-premise into the cloud. And we have our SAP HANA product manager and product expert here with us today, Taesuk Son, who is going to present to you for the next 40-ish minutes on this topic. Thanks, Taesuk, for taking your time to present to the SAP community today. We have dedicated time towards the end of the session to address your questions. So really take the opportunity that is given to you today to ask Taesuk as many questions as you want to get answered in the chat. So we're live here on YouTube. We will use the chat to basically, well, comment on content here, but also then to have the question, like the Q&A towards the end. Please log in to be able to use the chat, and also let us know where you're tuning in from. So early morning for me here, kind of late afternoon for Taesuk. And we're interested in getting to know you, and we're interested in knowing where you are from. So let us know, chat with us here, and I wish you, an interesting session now with Taesuk. I'm handing over to you. The stage is all yours.
Hi, thank you, Lena. Hi, my name is Taesuk Son. So I'm one of the product managers for the SAP HANA or SAP HANA Cloud product. But I specifically cover the topic of the hybrid scenarios. So the hybrid scenario is mixing your on-prem landscape with our HANA database in the SAP HANA Cloud environment. So for today, we're going to touch about the topic about dynamically extending the on-premise into the cloud. So we have a replication service that is available as part of the SAP HANA Cloud cockpit. And this can be used to easily extend your on-prem workloads easily into the cloud with a few simple clicks. So with that, let me share my screen. Okay, so first of all, let's just briefly touch on why the hybrid cloud is very important. So as a lot of companies have already invested heavily in the on-prem landscape, but we are seeing a lot of companies are trying to move into the cloud. But as the investments are already heavily done on the on-prem side, that they cannot not all customers can go directly to the cloud. So the most logical step would be to be utilizing the hybrid cloud scenario where they utilize some of their the cloud infrastructure as being more dynamic and more up-to-date technology to use while keeping their existing environment in the on-prem system. And based on that, from several analysts that showed that a lot of the enterprises are now already switching over to the hybrid scenario, and research from IDC is showing that by 2022, that over 90% of the enterprises worldwide will have a mix of on-premise and dedicated private clouds as a hybrid scenario. And also, Forrester Research is saying that 85% of IT decision makers agree that it's critical of being that on-prem system is important for their hybrid cloud strategy. And the market is fastly growing. With the pandemic, the movement to the hybrid cloud has accelerated much more than anticipated, and we're seeing a lot more companies moving into the cloud, the hybrid cloud environment. So from SAP perspective, we offer SAP HANA Cloud as the environment for the hybrid cloud scenarios. And using the SAP HANA Cloud, you can keep the critical data on-premise and while replicating just minimal data to the HANA Cloud environment, assuring business integrity while capable of making agile decisions based on trusted live data, because the data can be replicated in real time from the on-prem system to the SAP HANA Cloud. So this environment offers a bimodal IT environment where the mission-critical system on-prem is safely secured in the corporate landscape, while the SAP HANA Cloud, which is new versions offered every quarter, are bringing new technology into your landscape where companies can utilize the latest, most up-to-date technologies for extending their workload. And with this, the SAP HANA Cloud offers the elasticity to easily extend the traditional workloads easily into the cloud and any regions that SAP HANA Cloud is offered so that they can easily and elastically extend to various regions. And also with this, it allows combining the big data scenarios where a lot of data from which is available in various cloud or external environments can be combined with your on-prem data and these external data and be utilized within the SAP HANA Cloud environment. So for extending the existing workload, we have the SAP applications or HANA platform on your on-prem system with the analytical workload working on top of the data, and you have these business intelligence and applications that are running these analytical workloads. And you would like to extend these analytical workloads into the cloud environment. But traditionally or initially, this had to be migrated because the HANA platform in your on-prem environment is a little bit different from the HANA Cloud environment, where the HANA Cloud is a more cloud-native environment, which required customers to migrate some of their analytical workload, which required a lot of effort. But now we're offering a new method to easily extend these analytical workload to the cloud. So traditionally, SAP Analytics Cloud would just connect to the on-prem system to pull data into the cloud environment, but this had some latency because you're trying to read the data from your on-prem system and move the result sets back into the cloud. So instead of that, we can easily extend the analytical workload to the cloud, and these analytical workloads would consist of reference data like currency conversions or unit conversions, and also the data that is required and calculation views. So from an SAP application point of view, this would consist of the analytical workload. And what we offer is to easily replicate, not migrate, but easily replicate these reference data tables and calculation views, and we create the analytical workload easily, dynamically into the SAP HANA Cloud environment, where the analytical applications like SAC can easily connect to the HANA Cloud so that you can eliminate the latency and go against more live data, which is very near to where it's being consumed. So it's improving the latency, and this can be serviced to multiple regions, not only one region, but this can be replicated to multiple regions, and which allows the elasticity to scale these type of workloads to any SAP HANA Cloud environment that we offer. So to go a little bit deeper, we offer the method of replicating the analytical workload from the on-prem to the HANA Cloud. And like I've mentioned, it has the reference data tables and calculation views, but we also offer like SQL views and calc views and roles and authorizations. So basically, we're offering the replication of replicating the calc views and the roles and authorizations. So the calculation views, currently we recently released this feature to replicate the calc view, which we'll be showing today. Also, we're trying to improve the replication of the roles and authorizations. So we do have some basic authority replication, but we would like to extend and extend the authorization replication in the coming months. So just to go a little bit deeper in how or what the calculation view replication is covering. So calculation view on your on-prem system can be created in several different types of environments. The traditional calculation view was based on the XS Classic schema-based, which the design time was stored in repository, and the runtime object of these calculation views was created as part of the schema, and it is referencing the tables. So this is one type of replication where we can support replicating the XS Classic-based calculation views directly to the HANA Cloud side as tables and calculation views running on HANA Cloud. Additionally, we also support the HDI container-based calculation views. So calculation view runtime would exist inside HDI containers. And this calculation view can reference HDB tables, which was created as part of the CDES HDB table definition, or using synonyms that is referring to tables in an external schema-based tables. These are all supported, where it can be replicated from the on-prem system to the HANA Cloud. But the difference is that when replicating the HDI container, instead of creating a container again on the HANA Cloud side, we create them as schema runtimes where the calculation views are replicated into the HANA Cloud as schema-based. So the tables, the synonyms are all created as well, but instead of HDI containers, these are all schema-based runtime objects. As this is our initial offering of this solution where we can easily extend your on-prem analytical workload with a few simple clicks to the HANA Cloud, we do have some limitations as like currently we want to extend it to support some of the analytical privilege, but XML, since some of the features have been deprecated in the calculation views, the deprecated ones will not be supported, but the ones that we do support, we will try to extend these features in the coming months as well. So in the background, what we're doing is we're copying, replicating the table data using some of the replication technologies. So, and then rebuilding the runtime objects on top of these tables. So SQL views or calculation views are first replicating the tables underneath and building these metadata runtime objects on top. And replicating the table depending on the source HANA version, you either use the Cloud Connector or the SDIDP agent. So from SPS 05 or higher, we utilize the Cloud Connector and use the remote table replication, which is a HANA to HANA direct replication technology, which is very optimized for HANA data replication. And for earlier versions, we support by using the traditional SDIDP agent to easily replicate data, and including the calculation view, metadata, runtime as well. So based on that, let me try to show the demo of what I have just explained. So here, I have connected to a local system, which is the Access Classic-based calculation view with the content as packages stored in the repository, and the runtime is a schema-based calculation view. And the scenario is the sales order scenario, which is very typical scenario for a lot of business where the customers would like to analyze the sales order in the cloud environment for reporting purposes or for analytical workloads or analysis. And the calculation view is a traditional OLAP or star join based schema, cube-based calculation view, referencing dimensional calc views as well. And within the computation, it is also referring to amount-based as local currency, and also these local currencies are all converted to euro, so that each of the local currencies converted to euro can be aggregated as a single reporting unit using the reference data for currency conversion. This time I've logged into the on-prem version of the web IDE, and as you can see, this one is using the calculation view based, which will be created as part of the HDI container. So it is using the HANA CDS definition of using the calculation view. Also similarly, it's doing the star join, referencing several other calculation view as dimensions, but it's using the synonym to reference the table from an external schema. So this is another scenario where a lot traditional Access Classic-based calculation view have been converted to the HDI-based. Another scenario is having traditional internal HDB table, which is created directly in the HDI container. And I've created a simple calculation view just projecting this HDB table customers to show that we also support not only synonyms, but HDB table-based tables as part of the calculation view. Now we go to the SAP HANA Cloud side, and you can log into the cockpit, HANA cockpit of the HANA Cloud. And as part of the monitoring, there's connections to SAP HANA Cloud using the replication service. And since this is a new one, we'll create the replication. And when we're trying to create a new application, like I've mentioned, there's two options, the SPS 05 or higher, or SPS 04 or lower. The 05 or higher is the one that would be using the HANA native replication. So for this demo, we'll utilize the Cloud Connector, which will use the remote table replication, which is the HANA native replication optimized for HANA. So the first step is to create a remote source. So from the HANA Cloud, it will try to utilize the Cloud Connector. So I've already set up a Cloud Connector with the location ID hybrid, which would bypass a firewall using the Cloud Connector and go directly to the database in the on-prem system. The host and port number is the virtual host and virtual port, but here I've just reuse the internal name so that it can be shown that we're trying to connect to a local host and local port. And for the credentials, I'm using a technical user for the remote source. So this is just the pure technical user, and you would need to set up all the required privileges as shown in this link here. And this will connect to the on-prem HANA system, and it will show two users, but this user is actually a schema. So the SLP ADM is the schema-based data, the tables that we've shown in the first demo set, and the sales is actually a HDI container where I've assigned the technical user to allow to see inside the HDI container schema. And since we need to recreate the schema on the SAP HANA Cloud side, but we don't know we cannot extract the original password, we initialize the password for each of these schema, and we go to the next step. From here, as the first step, we will try to replicate some of the reference tables, so all the T tables, like the currency conversion or the unit conversion related tables. So we select some of these tables to show how easily we can replicate the tables. And for the replication scheduling point of view, we will set it as real time. So once we set it as real time, it will use the remote table replication to set up the replication, and anytime the data changes on the source side, that it will replicate in real time from the on-prem to the SAP HANA Cloud. So right now what it's doing, it's loading all of the tables that we have selected and setting up the replication. And once the data has finished loading, you can see that the data size have been updated, and we're in a real-time replication status. Okay, so currently it's finishing up replicating all the currency related tables that I had selected previously. And now it's in real-time replication. I can go and add additional objects that I want to replicate. And this time I will try to select one of the calculation view. So I will try to filter the objects based on the calculation view. So I filter the object type as calculation view only. And then I'll remove the sales, the HDI container one, and focus on the SLP admin, ADM schema based. So it will show only the calculation view related to the schema based one. And as I mentioned, the sales order, and there's also dimensional calculation view. But for replicating, we'll only select the top level sales order calculation view as real time. And since it has dependencies on these other dimension calc views and selected, what it's actually doing is that it is extracting the data from the metadata from the on-prem system and getting all the dependency information and retrieving the dimensional calculation view metadata again, parsing it, getting the dependency for that. So it's basically parsing down all the dependency tree until it retrieves all the list of objects that needs to replicate. So it's not only replicating calculation view, but also the base tables, the hierarchies, and other types of objects that is needed for using this calculation view in the SAP HANA Cloud site. So basically, it's currently running to setting up in the background all the dependent objects and replicating the objects, and also the related tables like the sales order, customer tables, and other tables that is needed for running this calculation view. Okay. So as you can see, the target is showing as sys_BIC schema. So it actually, this calculation view is created under sys_BIC, and as you can see here, in the dependencies tree, we have multiple calculation view, hierarchies, and tables. So it actually went through all the dependency objects and created these objects into these systems. So we'll go to the column view side. And as you can see here, that it's not only the sales order calculation view that was created, but also all the dependent calculation view are runtime, which is the column view, have been created. In the HANA Cloud system, and we can just select the data and execute. And we can see the data that exists on the HANA Cloud side. Okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Next, we'll try to go add the HDI-based calculation view this time. So here I've selected the HDI-based. So the schema name is sales because the sales is actually the name of the HDI container. And as you can see, the object name is a little bit different, where the / is the schema based and the double colon is typically our naming standard for the HDI based calculation views. So you can see the target for the HDI based is actually the sales schema. So instead of the sales HDI container, it used the it created under the sales schema. And looking at the dependent objects, you see tables, calculation views, and also synonyms. So it actually pulled all the dependency information and we tried to recreate them as synonyms. So here, let me go to the sales. And as you can see, sorry, let me skip this part. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so basically, you're looking at the repository-based calculation view that was replicated. As the name shows that it's using the /sales /calc view sales order, and it's actually created as part of the sys-BIC schema under the sys-BIC. So actually, the runtime is created under the sys-BIC, and we can utilize the runtime of the sales order to run reports against this sales order. Similarly, it's pulling the data from the sales HDI container again, and we're replicating the data, the calculation view from the HDI container, and using the HDI container metadata and runtime information, replicating the data from the on-prem into the HANA cloud, and the target is the sales schema. And like I've shown previously, I have the dependency synonym and calculation view and tables for the HDI based as well. So here, even for the HDI container ones, you can see that the dimensional cat views are also replicated, even though we only selected the sales order calculation view, but it parses all the dependency and retrieves the sales order calc view and all the dependent objects. Next time, we want to try out the calculation view where it's trying to reference the HDB table, which is a table that resides inside the HDI container. So it's not using the synonym or the schema-based table. So when we try to add the data, try to replicate the calculation view that we have created as a sample for using the HDB table as a source. And so this calculation view, it was also replicated, but the source now is not a synonym, but actually a table. So, and the table, so we see that the new calculation view has been replicated to the HANA Cloud side. You can double click to check that the metadata has been correctly replicated, and see going into the table side that the sales customer table has also been replicated from the on-prem. And basically it's using the replica or the virtual table to replicate using the real-time replication from a HDI container-based table to a schema-based table in SAP HANA Cloud. So with that, basically we've seen how easy it is to replicate from your on-prem system to the HANA Cloud. You basically need to set up the connection from the HANA Cloud to the on-prem. And once this connection has been set up, then you just select the objects that you want to replicate. So the replication service will determine all the dependent objects internally and easily replicate them from the source system to the target with just one simple click. And as this can be done for multiple targets, not only just one HANA Cloud instance, but you can create multiple HANA Cloud instances in different regions to replicate data from each, from the same remote source on-prem and service these type of analytical workloads to different regions, servicing multiple users, where you can easily offload the workload from on-prem to the HANA Cloud with a single few clicks. And this can be all dynamic because you can just spin up a new SAP HANA Cloud instance. And with this few simple clicks, you can easily set up the needed calculation view to be replicated. So that is it for my demo. So should we go to Q&A then?
Yes.
Let me stop sharing.
Right. Okie dokie. There is actually 3 questions in the chat, and they all started with your demo. So let me start. That first one came in pretty much at the beginning when you started your demo. It's from Michael. Is it possible to replicate the views but keep the tables on premise and access them via SDA?
So currently, using the replication service, we assume that the table is replicated from the on-prem system to the HANA Cloud. So we're not, from the replication service UI itself, we are not offering such a configuration, but it can be easily done by just using, by copying the metadata from the on-prem to your system. Or you can replicate the tables once and then replace the tables with the virtual table to reference the data to the on-prem system. So with a mixture of using our tool and some manual modification, it is possible to create a calculation view, but actually look at the data on your on-prem system. But our goal is to make it easier and replicate the data into the HANA Cloud environment. With the replication service solution itself, we're actually replicating the data into the SAP HANA Cloud.
Perfect, thank you. Michael is really using your expertise here, Tisuk, because there's one more question actually.
Sure.
And basically, this is really what the Q&A is now for. So everyone, please log in and ask your questions, because that was great content that we just saw. There are so many abbreviations actually: HDB, HDI, SDA. SAP really likes abbreviations. So also, if you have questions with regards to the abbreviations that got used and you're pretty new to the topic, just type in the chat and yeah, ask us about all those abbreviations here. So second question from Michael here is, do the modifications of the views are automatically replicated? For example, if the view involves a new table, does this new table is automatically replicated?
So the remote table replication itself, whenever there is a change in the table, like adding a column, these are all automatically replicated because the remote table replication itself automatically handles such a metadata change. For other types, it is a little bit different. For the calculation view, currently we do not support the automatic detection of the object changes and the replication being done dynamically. So this is something that is in our roadmap that we want to enhance. And also we're working on the updating features. So whenever there is a new calculation view that has been instantiated on the source side, that we update the metadata on the target side. So this is being worked on, where we allow updating. And then once we provide this solution, then our next step is the auto detection. So in terms of the table itself, yes, we automatically update the metadata as long as you're using the remote table replication technology, which is SPS 05 or higher. For the views itself, it is in the roadmap. This is something that is high priority and we want to deliver something soon.
Perfect. So we already had a little bit of an outlook what is coming. Actually, so that is kind of related to the question. What happens in SAP HANA Cloud when a replicated table is dropped, but then recreated on the on-premise system?
So dropping are not handled. So the data changes are handled automatically, where metadata changes are handled automatically, but dropping would break the replication. So the replication itself would fail, and this failed job will be can be monitored using the cockpit. And so the integration from on-prem to the HANA Cloud, where it assumes that the objects are all consistent in the on-prem side, since that consistency or that dependency have been broken, that the jobs would start failing, and the administrator would be alerted for such an event. And once the object is recreated, since the object, if the definition is identical, then there wouldn't be any issue. And so it can recreate and resume replication. But there are several features that we put into this type of scenario. So within the cockpit, we have the option to pause the replication. At least for SDI, we have the option to pause the replication, so you can do some maintenance work on the source side. We're also working on that for the RTR side, which we would provide soon as well, so that you can pause the replication and then do some maintenance work on your source side and resume the replication. And if you feel that there's some inconsistency between the data from the on-prem side and the source side, for RTR, we have measures to reconcile the data to check if the consistency is correct, or to figure out where it should resume the data again. So these type of features are part of the remote table replication. So you can reference the remote table replication documentation for such details.
Thank you, Michael. I hope that answered your questions so far in the chat. Let us know whether that was helpful. Give us a thumbs up here. Just one more question with regards to the on-premise system. If, for instance, the model itself got changed, so what happens if the model in the on-premise system gets changed?
So the model, this is the thing where I mentioned that the calculation view definition changes. Currently, we're working on that feature and we are trying to release it soon. So whenever a model changed and the model would be activated or instantiated on the source side, right now we don't have that auto detection to detect such a instantiation to automatically apply the changes to HANA Cloud. So right now we're working on manual update. So whenever a modeling has been updated, then you will go to the replication UI, select the calculation view again to update on the target side. So this will be released soon. And then the auto detection is something that you also will work on and to get it released soon as well.
Okay, so everyone stay tuned. There is auto detection coming up. I guess everyone is interested also in costs and prices. So, or if there is additional costs. Question here, is there any additional cost associated with that new functionality of hybrid?
No, this is available as part of the SAP HANA cockpit for SAP HANA Cloud. So it is a default feature of the HANA Cloud because we feel that for HANA Cloud, the majority use case would be a hybrid scenario. So we're trying to make it easier for our SAP customers to extend their on-prem workload and extend their previous use cases easily into the cloud. So we're offering this functionality free. So no cost associated with it.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question in the chat here. Could you please say more about the elastic sizing capability on HANA Cloud? Is it, for example, possible to upsize the system dynamically during a certain time frame of the day?
When I mention elasticity, it's more about extending your on-prem workload to the cloud. So adding a new HANA Cloud instance in whatever region you prefer, like Asia, Europe, or North America, or South America, wherever, and replicate data so that you can service users in that region. And this can be multiple regions, so it can be spun up anytime. And since the user UI is so simple with a few simple clicks, then you can easily copy data or copy the calculation view from your source system to the target, that it can be easily extended anytime. So that is what I've meant in terms of elasticity. In terms of the question, able to scale up or down based on the usage on any time of a given day, this is more of the HANA Cloud infrastructure, which is a bit outside of today's topic. But right now, we are offering upsizing where the customer can go into the BTP cockpit and configure the HANA to be upsized, or the Cloud Central where the HANA instance can be upsized as needed, but this requires some downtime because we would have to upgrade the system to the size that the customer has newly configured. But it can be done on a need basis.
Thank you. Okay, that was it for now in the Q&A. More questions. We still have time, guys. 12 minutes left. You can basically ask more questions here. I had a question with regards to basically the positioning of the hybrid model. So I know that earlier when HANA first got positioned back in 2010, around 2011, the argument was that HANA allows OLTP, so online transportation processing, right? And OLAP,
yes.
Those abbreviations, online analytical processing in a single system, right?
Correct.
With the hybrid model, yeah. Are we moving away now, actually, from that idea, the initial idea?
So that is a trans-analytical system. So we have transactions and analytical system mixed in as a single workload. So this is still true for the on-prem systems because you want to, it's your system of record where it's all transactional. So a lot of the transactional data are being kept and recorded in the source system. And as HANA is very strong for these OLTP plus OLAP configuration, that we have extended a lot of our SAP application to be support these type of workloads. So you see more OLAP workloads running inside the existing SAP applications. But to service a lot of customers or users, especially these global companies where they need to service users globally, they feel the need to service these analytical workloads in the cloud. So we have a lot of customers that are migrating their analytical workloads to the SAP HANA cloud environment. But traditionally, when they have to service such a workload, that it required them some migration efforts because the calculation view had to be converted to something that was compatible to SAP HANA Cloud, which required some effort. But with this new solution, it can be easily extended without any migration, just a few simple clicks, and it can be extended to the HANA Cloud. So we still service the traditional on-prem OLTP plus analytical workloads, but this hybrid is more about extending it to various cloud regions where it's not only servicing a single location, but multiple locations globally, because a lot of companies are growing and and they need to service from the cloud. Also, there are customers who want to mix data from external data with internal data, where they don't want to use the existing application system, but they need a newer system to service these new types of applications. So this is another scenario where the on-prem data is moved to the cloud mixed with data coming from other cloud sources. So this would be another type of scenario where we're mentioning hybrid. But the traditional OLTP plus OLAP is still valid. Okay.
Thank you, Tisuk. Thanks. Another question here in the chat, maybe regarding that point here. What happens to the replication if the on-premise system gets restored to some point in time in the past?
So this is like a maintenance work where you would need to cut off the replication because there's a replication work that needs to be done. So I guess there's two options. We replicate the data from the on-prem system to the cloud, or for RTR, there's a feature to reconcile the source and the target, where it's comparing the keys, the keys that is used internally for maintaining the data synchronization between the source and the target to figure out how the data needs to be replicated. So, but the easiest would be to just re-replicate the data from the source to the target again.
Thank you. In the meantime, actually, I posted two links, actually 3 links into the chat. One of which is the SAP HANA on-premises and cloud databases topic page in the SAP community. So if you want to find out more and get more background information about all what we've learned today, you can check out the topic page, as well as following the tags, the main tags SAP HANA and SAP HANA Cloud. You can also do that from the topic page. And in terms of time, because we have kind of 5 minutes left, I might just basically real quick share my screen to let you know about basically, where is my here? I wanted to show you what the SAP HANA on-premises and cloud database. It's a very long title here for our combined, make you small here to look. Topic page, check out this page here. It is included in the slide deck. The slide deck is already downloadable from the YouTube description. So you can jump directly to our topic page here. We also listed upcoming and previous SAP community calls. And the next one is actually on March 30th. As well, what I really wanted to show you is really Tisuk's profile. So hit the follow button on Tisuk's profile, follow him in the SAP community, and you can view his content. You can see his blog posts. There is one from February 2nd that you can basically check out. If you hit the follow button on the blog post, you get notified about any comments that are posted on the blog post. So you know exactly what kind of feedback Tisuk got from community members and what kind of questions maybe come about with the content here. Similar to, there is a few, Michael actually, comments here that Tisuk then also answered. So liking, following the blog post really helps here too. And on the topic page, if you hit the follow button, you can select what kind of tags you want to follow and what kind of notifications you want to receive. So there's what I briefly wanted to let you know before. Let's have a look. Maybe there's more questions in the chat. Just a comment here from Michael. Thanks for all the answers. Thank you, Michael, for all your questions. And yeah, with that being said, I would like to thank you, Tisuk, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your insights and for sharing your expertise here with the SAP community. As I said, the next SAP community call with the SAP HANA team is coming up end of March. So please join us again and check out our upcoming SAP community calls. I post that link into the chat here as well, that you know which ones are coming up for future SAP community calls. There we go. I hope to see you there as well. Download the slide deck, share it with your friends, family, colleagues. The recording is now available on this very same link that you joined our call today. And yeah, I hope everyone is fine, stay healthy, stay safe, and we see you soon. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Bye, Tisuk.
Bye.